At 72, Margaret never thought her favorite foods could be the reason for her aching legs. She blamed it on aging, overuse, or just bad luck, but never her diet. That is, until one conversation with her doctor changed everything. What she ate was either fueling inflammation or fighting it. And to her surprise, some of the foods she loved most were making her pain 10 times worse. Today, we're uncovering the 9 foods you must avoid if you want to keep leg pain from taking over your life. 1. Processed meats are fueling inflammation in your joints. Margaret never thought twice about her morning bacon and sausage. It was part of her routine, something comforting and familiar, but she never connected it to the stiffness and soreness she felt later in the day. It turns out, processed meats, like hot dogs, sausages, deli meats, and bacon, are loaded with nitrates, preservatives, and unhealthy fats that trigger inflammation in the body. Studies show that these additives don't just affect the stomach, they directly contribute to joint and muscle pain, making conditions like arthritis, sciatica, and neuropathy worse. Margaret decided to test it. For just 2 weeks, she swapped her usual breakfast sausage for eggs with avocado and whole grain toast. She replaced her ham sandwiches with grilled chicken and fresh veggies. And the results? By the end of the second week, her legs felt less stiff, and she noticed a difference in how easily she could move. The truth is, your body isn't designed to process chemical-laden, overly salty, and fat-heavy meats. Instead, switch to lean proteins like salmon, turkey, or plant-based options like lentils and beans. Your legs and your whole body will thank you. Second, say goodbye to white bread, pastries, and sugary cereals. Margaret had a love affair with pastries. A sweet muffin in the morning, a warm biscuit with dinner, and the occasional donut with her coffee. It all seemed harmless. But what she didn't realize was that refined grains were working against her body, making her leg pain worse. Foods like white bread, pastries, sugary cereals, and white rice break down quickly into sugar in the body. This sudden spike in blood sugar triggers inflammation, leading to pain, swelling, and stiffness, especially in the legs. Over time, this constant cycle of sugar spikes and crashes makes mobility harder, increases the risk of nerve pain, and weakens muscles. Margaret didn't believe it at first, but after cutting out refined carbs for just 1 week, she noticed something strange. Her legs didn't feel as swollen by the afternoon. She had more energy, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't waking up stiff and sore. So what should you eat instead? Swap white bread and pastries for whole grains like oats, quinoa, or sprouted grain bread. Choose low-sugar cereals, or better yet, start the day with a protein-packed smoothie. A few small swaps can make a huge difference in how your legs feel every single day. 3. Soda and sugary drinks. A recipe for pain. Margaret used to have a habit she didn't think twice about. Every afternoon, she'd reach for a diet soda or a sugary iced tea, something refreshing to perk her up. But she never made the connection between those drinks and her growing leg pain. Sodas, energy drinks, sweetened teas, and flavored coffees are all loaded with refined sugars and artificial sweeteners, which are some of the biggest inflammatory culprits. They don't just increase the risk of diabetes and weight gain, they also wreak havoc on the joints, muscles, and nerves. Here's what happens inside the body. Excess sugar increases levels of cytokines, chemicals that cause inflammation. Over time, these chemicals attack the joints and muscles, leading to pain, stiffness, and reduced circulation. Margaret didn't want to believe it, but she decided to cut out sugary drinks for just 10 days. Instead, she drank water with lemon, unsweetened herbal teas, and coconut water. By the end of the 10 days, her legs felt lighter, less swollen, and far less achy. If you're still drinking soda, it might be time to switch things up. Hydrating with plain water, herbal teas, and electrolyte-rich drinks can make a dramatic difference in how you feel and how easily you move. 4. Fried foods are weighing you down, literally and physically. For years, Margaret had her favorite fried comfort foods: crispy chicken, French fries, and even fried fish. It was part of her routine, part of her memories, part of what she enjoyed. But what she didn't realize was that these foods were making her pain worse with every bite. Fried foods are loaded with trans fats and processed oils that fuel inflammation and slow circulation. When blood flow is restricted, muscles and joints don't get the oxygen and nutrients they need, leading to stiffness, swelling, and prolonged pain. Margaret decided to do an experiment. She replaced her fried chicken with grilled salmon, her French fries with roasted sweet potatoes, and her usual takeout with homemade stir fries. The difference? Within a few weeks, she felt lighter, had less leg fatigue, and even noticed an improvement in her walking. Making the switch isn't about depriving yourself. It's about choosing foods that work for your body, not against it. Try baking, roasting, or air frying your favorite foods for that same crunch without the inflammatory damage. 5. Too much dairy can trigger joint pain. Margaret loved her morning yogurt and nightly cheese plate. She never imagined dairy could be a problem. After all, wasn't milk supposed to strengthen bones? But what no one told her was that certain dairy products can actually worsen inflammation, leading to stiffness, swelling, and chronic leg pain. Dairy contains casein, a protein that can trigger an inflammatory response in some people. And for those with arthritis or nerve pain, this inflammation builds up over time, making movement harder and pain more intense. At first, Margaret was skeptical. Could cutting dairy really help? But she gave it a try. Instead of milk, she switched to almond and oat milk. Instead of cheese-heavy meals, she opted for avocado, nuts, and dairy-free alternatives. Within a couple of weeks, something incredible happened. Her legs didn't ache as much when she woke up. She didn't feel as stiff getting out of bed. It wasn't magic. It was her body finally getting a break from the constant inflammation. This doesn't mean you have to give up dairy completely, but pay attention to how your body reacts. If you notice more pain after a cheesy meal or a glass of milk, it might be time to cut back and see the difference for yourself. 6. Alcohol, a hidden trigger for inflammation. Margaret always looked forward to her evening routine: a glass of wine with dinner, a moment to unwind, a small luxury she enjoyed. It had been part of her life for years, a habit she never thought twice about. But over time, she started noticing something troubling. Her legs felt heavier at night, her joints stiffer in the morning, and the occasional throbbing pain seemed to linger longer than usual. She chalked it up to age, thinking, this is just part of getting older. What she didn't realize was that alcohol was secretly making her leg pain worse. Alcohol dehydrates the body, which means muscles and joints don't get the moisture they need to stay flexible and pain-free. When dehydration sets in, stiffness increases, circulation slows, and inflammation rises. And it doesn't stop there. Alcohol also depletes crucial nutrients like magnesium and B vitamins, which are essential for muscle function and nerve health. Then came the moment that changed everything. One evening, at a family gathering, Margaret enjoyed a couple of glasses of wine, more than her usual. The next morning, she woke up feeling drained, achy, and sluggish. Her legs felt like they were weighed down by bricks, and even after stretching, the discomfort lingered. That was her wake-up call. She decided to cut back and see if it made a difference. Instead of her nightly wine, she switched to sparkling water with lemon, a simple but refreshing alternative. When she craved something warm and soothing, she replaced her cocktail habit with herbal teas like chamomile and ginger, both known for their anti-inflammatory properties. Within a few short weeks, she noticed something unexpected. Her legs felt lighter, her joints weren't as stiff in the mornings, and to her surprise, she was sleeping better than she had in years. Margaret didn't have to give up alcohol completely, but she found that reducing it made a world of difference. If leg pain is holding you back, cutting down on alcohol might be one of the simplest and most effective changes you can make. Your legs and your whole body will feel the difference. 7. Artificial sweeteners are sneakily increasing pain. Margaret had switched to diet sodas and sugar-free snacks, thinking she was making a healthy choice. But what she didn't realize was that artificial sweeteners were doing just as much damage, if not more, than sugar. Aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin, found in many diet drinks, sugar-free gums, and packaged snacks, can trigger an inflammatory response in the body. For those already struggling with arthritis, neuropathy, or muscle pain, these chemicals can make symptoms far worse. Margaret read an article about this and decided to test it for herself. She replaced her diet sodas with unsweetened iced tea, her artificial sweeteners with natural options like honey and stevia. And within 10 days, she felt a noticeable shift. Her legs felt less restless, her joints felt less stiff, and she even had fewer headaches. She had always thought diet products were the answer, but now she knew the truth. Real, whole foods are what her body actually needed. If you're struggling with leg pain and inflammation, check the labels. Eliminating artificial sweeteners might be the change your body has been waiting for. 8. Excess salt is tightening your muscles and slowing circulation. Margaret had always been generous with her salt shaker. She sprinkled it over her eggs in the morning, added a little extra to her soups, and never turned down a bag of her favorite salty snacks. To her, it was just a small indulgence, a habit she never thought twice about. But as the years passed, she began to notice something strange. Her legs felt heavier than usual, especially in the evenings. After long days, she'd sit down to rest, only to find her feet and ankles swollen, her calves tight, and her knees stiff. Some mornings, she'd wake up with legs that felt stiff as tree trunks, making those first few steps out of bed a challenge. She chalked it up to aging, to a lack of movement, or maybe just bad circulation. But it never occurred to her that her love for salt was part of the problem. The truth is, excess sodium in the diet leads to water retention. When the body holds onto too much fluid, it causes swelling and puts extra pressure on the blood vessels. This slows circulation, making it harder for oxygen and nutrients to reach the muscles and nerves in the legs. Over time, this leads to stiffness, cramping, and pain. Margaret had one particular night that changed everything. She had enjoyed a big meal with fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and salty gravy. It was delicious, but when she woke up the next morning, she could barely move her legs. They felt like lead. Her ankles were swollen, and even stretching didn't relieve the tightness. She had a sinking feeling that something in her diet had caused this. Determined to get to the bottom of it, she started paying attention to how much salt was sneaking into her meals. She realized that even foods that didn't taste particularly salty, like canned soups, processed meats, and packaged snacks, were loaded with sodium. The more she read food labels, the more shocked she became. She decided to make a few small changes. Instead of using table salt, she switched to herbs and spices like garlic, turmeric, and rosemary to flavor her meals. She replaced her usual processed snacks with fresh fruit, raw nuts, and air-popped popcorn. And most importantly, she doubled her water intake, helping her body flush out the excess sodium. Within a week, she noticed something incredible. Her swelling went down, her legs felt lighter, and she wasn't waking up stiff anymore. The change was undeniable. If your legs often feel tight, swollen, or sluggish, take a look at your sodium intake. Cutting back on processed foods and drinking plenty of water could be the difference between struggling through the day and moving with ease. 9. Red meat, a hidden inflammatory trigger. Growing up, Margaret's family always had red meat at the dinner table. Whether it was Sunday pot roast, backyard barbecues, or a sizzling steak on special occasions, it was a staple in her household. She never questioned it. After all, meat was supposed to be full of protein and good for strength. But as she got older, she began to connect the dots. After eating a heavy beef dinner, she felt sluggish. Her legs ached more than usual, and by morning, her joints were stiffer than before. She started wondering, was red meat making her leg pain worse? She did some research, and what she found was surprising. Red meat contains high levels of saturated fats and advanced glycation end products, AGEs. These compounds trigger inflammation throughout the body, particularly in the joints and muscles. Instead of providing energy, red meat was actually making her body work harder to repair itself. Inflammation from too much red meat doesn't just affect joints. It slows down circulation, weakens muscles, and makes it harder for the body to heal from aches and pains. If you already have arthritis, nerve pain, or chronic inflammation, red meat can make it worse. At first, Margaret wasn't convinced. Giving up her favorite steak dinners and burgers? That felt impossible. But she didn't have to quit cold turkey. Instead, she made a few simple swaps. Instead of eating red meat 4 or 5 times a week, she cut back to once or twice. On the nights she skipped beef, she tried grilled salmon, roasted chicken, or plant-based protein sources like beans and lentils. She also added more leafy greens, whole grains, and nuts to her meals to balance things out. Within a month, she started noticing real changes. She had more energy, less stiffness in the morning, and fewer nights of aching legs. She even felt lighter after meals, no longer weighed down by heavy, inflammatory foods. She realized she didn't have to completely give up red meat. She just needed to eat it in moderation. By focusing on leaner proteins and anti-inflammatory foods, she was giving her body the support it needed to move freely again. If you love red meat, but struggle with leg pain, try cutting back and replacing some meals with lighter, nutrient-rich proteins. Your joints and muscles might just thank you for it. Margaret learned the hard way that what you eat affects how you feel. And the good news? You have control over your choices. Start small, make simple swaps, and notice how your legs and your whole body begin to heal. If you found this helpful, share it with a friend who needs to hear this.